are again, folks. This is the second part of our show today. We're happy to be here and hope that you will join us. We have two interesting people here that are doing interesting things, and I will introduce you to them. This is John Hawkins, called Jake, and he belongs to the Arundel Historical Society, and this is Donna DeKinderen, and she's treasurer of the Arundel Historical Society. Now, will you tell us a little bit about the society and what you're doing?
Well, what we're trying to do is we started when, about, what, 2006?
2007.
2007. And we have a group of very dedicated board of directors, and we initially started with gathering records, which we do all the time anyway, and various historical things of interest to Arundel, because Arundel has a lot of history behind it. And what we set out to basically, we all had a common interest in gathering this historical information. In the meantime, someone gave us a house.
Yes, we had a house donated.
Right. And we ended up with this house, and now we had even a bigger mission to accomplish, but basically our mission is to work with the community and do community building as well as historical stuff.
I think building community is so important, and that's what we're all trying to do.
Yes, yes.
So you may want to contribute.
Well, I'll flesh out the timeline just a little bit. We became a nonprofit 501c3 organization as of 2008. We've been building our membership gradually over the interim. The donation of the house was a fairly immediate thing. The first house, it's a 200-plus-year-old farmhouse, so it's a valuable piece of Arundel's history. So at the same time we were juggling being a new organization and building our membership, we were also starting to think about the possibilities for this particular house. One of the issues with that house was that it needed to be moved from its current site to somewhere else. So we spent a good deal of effort trying to find an appropriate site for the house.
That's a lot of work.
Well, it was not so much work as it was frustrating, because just finding the right spot was kind of key to making this whole thing work. In the meantime, we were doing more community building with public suppers, which were dual purpose. They're fundraising, but also getting the members of the community kind of back together. And Arundel had not had any public suppers for quite some time. So what has happened, and I've seen it happen at every supper we've had, people walk in and they find somebody that they haven't seen in years, and they sit down and chat. And what's really nice about most of our suppers is that people come in fairly early in the evening, but nobody leaves. They all just sit and talk. And that's very gratifying for us, because that's another very important piece of that community building. As of this past winter, well, I take that back, it's a year ago now, Kate's Butter purchased a piece of property in Arundel and donated the second house, because that house couldn't stay on that piece of property either. Now we have two houses and no place to put them. So since basically January of 2011, we have been searching for a site, coming up with a plan, and also doing as much fundraising as possible, requesting donations so that we can support what is a major project. Ultimately, what we will be developing is something called North Chapel Common. It will have the two farmhouses, both of which are in excess of 200 years old, and a public meeting house.
Don't you wish those houses could talk?
Yes.
They could tell us stories.
Yes, and well, both of them are we know quite a bit of history on both houses. We've researched that, plus we've had the advantage of knowing the families that owned them. And in the one case in particular, the first house that was donated, the Lunt House, the woman and her husband who owned it last, I have known for years, and she had filled us in on a lot of the history of the house. The man who built that house in 1798 is buried in the cemetery across the road from the house. So we have a lot of information on that particular family. We were also fortunate in that last January in 2011, before he passed away, Paul Burnham, who was the last descendant owner of the other house, gave us a great deal of physical information, photographs, deeds, and also some of the family history for that particular house.
That's great.
And so it's extremely interesting. What is further interesting is that in both cases, well, if you take both families and you trace them back, they had intermarried. So there was a relationship there as well. So what is really happening is the entire neighborhood kind of gels in terms of all of these families and how they intermarried and related to each other and so on and so forth. So our plan in the long term is to have a group of buildings, one of which is this public meeting house, which is on the exterior, going to be modeled after the North Chapel Church, which stood almost in that same site. And that public meeting house is something that Arundel can really use because we don't have currently in town anywhere where those meetings can take place. Yes, that's our latest plan.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah.
You want to say anything about that?
This will be the public meeting area or the North Chapel Church. This is going to be the Burnham House, and this is the Lunt House. They're put in a semi-arc, and this is right off of Old Limerick Road. The cemetery is down here.
Yep.
So the person who designed this for us thought it might be fitting, which we thought was very appropriate, for the Lunt House to be facing the Lunt Cemetery.
You can't touch those cemeteries.
No.
No.
You can't move anything, right?
Yeah. And you can see the cemetery off of Route 111 right now as we speak. It's right there. And at one point, the North Chapel Church was set back further from that, if I'm correct.
Well, the North Chapel Church was actually, let me just get myself oriented properly here so I don't mess this up. What will be the replica of the North Chapel Church in our meeting house will stand here, and the original North Chapel Church was about there. So it's really a couple of hundred feet away from the original site.
Right.
One of the things that we've been searching for and getting some feedback from local folks is just old photographs of some of these buildings, not just in this particular neighborhood, but in Arundel in general. And we searched for a long time for a photograph of the North Chapel Church. Fortunately, in the collection of photographs that Paul Burnham provided us with, there were two photographs, one from a distance and one fairly close. So we should be able to reproduce the look of that on the outside, even though the inside of the building will be somewhat modern.
So nice to get that photograph because it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now we know what it looked like.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, this is history too. While you're doing it and moving all this, that's history.
Yes.
That has to be recorded.
Yes.
Pictures taken for down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, two of our directors are always ready with a camera. So as we have done all of our various projects, and another thing that we did in 2010 was we put a Veterans Memorial in Arundel, because that was another thing that was never done and sorely needed, because Arundel veterans go all the way back to the French and Indian War. So, in fact, I have a photograph of that, which I brought. Let me just...
Oh, isn't that? Oh, that's nice.
And we dedicated that in July of 2010. That was our first big project.
That's beautiful.
And that was entirely supported by local folks and their donations, businesses,
great.
Individuals, and we were very
This
pleased.
is where the community came through and
Absolutely.
Services and time and donations.
Yeah.
Now, how big of a community is Arundel?
Roughly 4,000 people.
That's really a community.
Yes, yes. It's a wonderful little town. Arundel has so many good things going for it that too few people know about.
Like I said, I substituted there at Arundel School a long time ago.
Were you at ML Day?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I was.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was very gratifying to have the level of community support and participation.
Now, where
for
is
that.
this?
That is just outside the fire station, and ML Day is on one side of the turnpike. The fire station's just over the turnpike on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, by Town Hall.
Very nice.
Yeah, well, as I said, we were very pleased with what everybody did in terms of chipping in to make it happen, and very proud of the outcome.
That's great.
This is a doable project, which we originally, actually, now that I think about it, that came up before the house was donated, or right around that time.
It was one of the first things we talked about doing. We did
That
have
was approachable.
Yeah, we did have possession of the first house, but
Right,
weren't able to
okay,
do
that's
anything
what
with
it
it.
was.
That was still very much in the planning and discussion stage. But we decided it was time to tackle something substantive for the town, and the Veterans Memorial was what came out of that effort.
I mean, they sacrificed so much for us and their families too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as a connecting piece to that, we also started at that same time the development of an honor roll. So we have been soliciting Arundel residents to give us information on anyone who at any point was an Arundel veteran. We have, and as the names come in, we publish them in our newsletter each time. So at this point, we have quite a substantial list of Arundel veterans. Our goal is for this spring, around Memorial Day, to finally publish what we have so far. It can always be added to. It includes anybody who at any time has been an Arundel resident who has served in the military, because we think that all of these folks, again, need to be archived, recognized, and have it recorded somewhere in town that they participated and have defended us.
That's good.
Yes.
They should.
Yes, we think that's
for
definitely
viewers
deserved.
who see this program, I mean, if there's people out there that have not known about this honor roll,
And
why,
women are
it'd be
included,
good
right?
for them.
Absolutely, yes.
It'd be good for them to contact us. And would they do that through our website? Or
That's the easiest way to do it, I think. Yep.
they do it through our website, which is right on. It's very nicely set up. We had someone set up that we have like 180 pictures or photographs from Arundel's history
Yes. Yep.
on there. So we have a website that's active and is ongoing, so people can punch into that if they need information.
On my street, they moved a house down the end of the street, and at the beginning of my street, they're in the Arundel Historical Society. I love those old houses. Down near the Saco River, there are a lot of them, and if you go by, you see they have these, they're long, they have extensions, I suppose for servants, but then they have these little square things, and they fought the Indians on the river.
Yep.
And they told about, how the river helped develop the city.
Now, all
It's so
houses
interesting.
they have tremendous character.
Yeah,
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah, and one of the features of the Burnham house, the second house, is, and it was typical of that time, a large central chimney with a large brick arch underneath, which supported the weight of the chimney and all of the associated flues, but also was part of the structure of the house. And we're talking about, an arch that's, 6 feet high and 7 or 8 feet wide. You can walk through it.
Don't you wonder how they
Gorgeous.
built it in those days?
Oh, they did amazing work. And one of the things, we do many things in our little group. One of the things that we've been doing is collecting a lot of the old bricks, because in order to move the house, we had to destroy the arch and take out all the fireplaces, which will be rebuilt later. But we have tons of bricks. So we have been sorting through and picking through the bricks. So we have some of those old bricks that, of course, we will use for restoration purposes. We also have some that will be for sale for folks who need old bricks for their own restoration purposes. But just as you go through the piles of bricks, the variety of shapes and textures, it's not like today's bricks where they're all identical.